Hello, everyone, and welcome to our latest online event here at the University of California, Merced. My name is Ricky Hill. I am the e-recruiter here at UC Merced. Once again, a huge welcome to you tonight. Before we get started, let me give you a couple of quick tips. If you need to adjust your audio settings, you can do that in the lower left corner of your screen by clicking the audio settings button. If you would like to adjust the size of your window, click on View Options in the upper portion of your screen. Lastly, and most importantly, please send us your questions tonight using the Q&A button that should be at the lower portion of your screen. We are fully staffed. We have a ton of experts online tonight behind the scenes, in addition to those who will be presenting this evening. So please, once again, use that Q&A button. Send us your questions. We will get to those throughout the presentation, as well as at the end of the program in a live question and answer session. As you can see on your screen, the lovely name of our event tonight is Financing Your Education. This couldn't be a more important topic, so we're so happy that you could join us this evening. Once again, my name is Ricky Hill. At this time, I'm going to hand things over to my colleague, Jason, for a quick announcement.
Good evening, everyone. Jason Juarez here. I serve as the interim director of our Calvin E. Bright Success Center, and I work with our new student orientation program. This webinar this evening is a joint project between the new student orientation program and Office of Admissions in terms of I Am a Bobcat webinar series. So I just want to pop on real quick, just to remind you, if you haven't already registered for your new student orientation, there is still time to register, and we still have seats available for sessions through July. I will post a link to the website in a few minutes, but if you haven't yet registered for orientation, be sure to do so as soon as you are able. And if you have registered, we look forward to seeing you this summer. Welcome to your Financing Your Education webinar, and I'm going to pass it off to my colleague, Chris, who will help us get started.
All right. Hello and good evening again. Welcome to Financing Your University Education. I'm Chris Green, and I'm the Operations Manager within the Students First Center. And proud UC Merced alumni. The Students First Center is your one-stop shop to assist with questions related to admissions, financial aid, registrar services, and student business services. Tonight, you will be hearing from Amanda from the Office of the Registrar, Lisa in the Students First Center to discuss student business services, and Ron from financial aid and scholarships. The Office of the Registrar oversees registration, enrollment verifications, statement of legal residence, and veteran services. The Office of Financial Aid and Scholarships will overview viewing and accepting awards, work study, student loans, and satisfactory academic progress. And Student Business Services oversees student fees, electronic billing, deferred payment plan, and student refunds. Next slide, please.
Hello, everyone. My name is Amanda Brown, and I am the Compliance Manager in the Office of the Registrar. And so before we start talking about financing your education, there are several privacy rights you have as a student now that you've entered college, such as FERPA. FERPA is the Family Educational Rights and Privacy Act, which is a federal law that is meant to protect the privacy of student educational records. So what does that mean? So for students, while at UC Merced, there's a lot of information the university has, such as your grades and finances. FERPA makes all of these records private and gives you the power to decide what information can be seen and who can see it. So FERPA takes the student's academic record and divides it into two populations. Some information is considered public, sometimes called directory information. And UC Merced has established the items listed on this slide as directory information. So the student's name and telephone number, UC Merced email address, major, class, dates of attendance, enrollment status, and degrees. This information may be released to a third party, including parents, unless you decide to make your record confidential. The other side of the academic record is a student account and financial aid, which is protected by FERPA. And as a student, you may decide if you want to grant authorization to your parents or guardian to access information. So for the student account, this is to view your bill, make a payment, create a parent PIN, check your refund status. To set up parent access, you would need to log into your portal and click on the My Bill icon and go through the steps of creating a parent PIN, which Lisa will go into more detail later on in the presentation. But without this authorization, Student Business Services cannot provide student account information to anyone other than the student. Second is financial aid. Parent authorization of financial aid information can be set up by the student through the UCM checklist. So to access this, you'll log into your student portal And under the student checklist, you will see a requirement that says release of authorization to parent. An authorization does not give parents access to the portal, but it will allow them to have access to email, phone, and in-person assistance with questions they may have about your financial aid. Now, the only other thing that's not listed here is the student education record, and this is grades and class schedule. This information is kept private and is only available to the student. So we encourage parents to communicate directly with their student for this information. If you have any questions about FERPA, there is more information available on the Registrar website at registrar.ucmerced.edu. And next, I'm going to pass it over to Ron from the Office of Financial Aid and Scholarships.
Great, thank you, Amanda. Hello, everybody. My name is Ron Radney. I'm the Director of Financial Aid and Scholarships. I'm excited to join you this evening to share some information about financial aid. Our amazing staff will be monitoring the chat and answering your financial aid questions live throughout the presentation. Before I begin, I'd like to provide some context about how your financial aid was initially packaged. For new incoming students, new incoming freshmen, your financial aid was packaged based on the expectation you'd be living on campus. And for new transfer students, you were packaged as off campus. The exception to this is if your permanent residence is within a 45-mile radius of campus, then you were packaged as living at home. So if that is not your living arrangements, if you were packaged living at home, but you're going to live in an off-campus apartment, you can provide a copy of your rental agreement and we'll revise your aid package to reflect off-campus. If you were packaged as living off campus or at home and you decided to live on campus, your financial aid will be updated to reflect on campus if and when you sign a housing contract and are given an on-campus housing assignment. If you're considering changing your living arrangements, you can always contact our Students First Center and ask to be referred to a financial aid advisor to see how your financial aid eligibility may change. So everyone who has applied should have received a financial aid offer letter by now, hopefully. If you have not, please contact our Students First Center. The cover page that you see on this slide basically shows what the offer letter looks like, and it directs you to our Connect web portal to view your financial aid and any checklist items we need to finalize your file. Next slide, please. So the very first time you log into the Connect portal, you'll need to click on Students and then navigate to UCM Net ID. Click Account Claim and answer the questions to establish your system access. The next time you log into the system, you'll be able to, you won't need to go through that process again. So to view and accept your 22-23 financial aid offer, log into the Connect portal, click on My Financial Aid, then click on Award Offer, select the 22-23 academic year, and then view your checklist. You can click on the checklist icon. Next slide. So here's what the actual navigation looks like when you log in. The first thing you would do is click on My Merced. Next slide. Then you would click on Financial Aid. And one thing I want to point out here, can you go back a slide, please? Is notice to the left of where I have the $sign circle, which is the financial aid icon. Just to the left of that is your My Checklist icon, where you can view the items that we need to finalize your financial aid file. Next slide. So once you click on My Financial Aid, you will see this page. First, notice the navigation links at the top of the page. You'll also notice the scroll bar on the right. You will see important notices highlighted in blue text, so make sure to read them each time that you log in. You see expected family contribution in the middle of the page with an amount to the right. The number, this number is a measure of your financial ability to contribute to the cost of education. It is a number generated by the government when you submit your financial aid application. The lower the number, the greater potential you have for grants, which is free money. Next slide. So as you scroll down the page, you'll see your estimated cost of attendance. This represents our estimate of what we think it will cost you to live and attend school for the year. As I indicated earlier, we have 3 different standardized budgets. We have an on-campus budget, an off-campus budget, and an at-home budget. This example that you see on the screen is for an off-campus budget. It includes tuition and fees, estimate of your books and supplies, average room and board, average personal living expenses, average transportation, and UC health insurance, which may be waived if you have comparable health insurance. Again, these are not your actual costs. They are only estimates, since we do not know which type of room or what your off-campus apartment costs are, or if you were to live on campus, if you selected a single, double, triple, or quad room meal plan. We don't know what you will select, so we're using estimates, but we do use those estimates to make your initial awards. Next slide. If you scroll down, you'll see a summary of any grants and scholarships you've been offered. This is free money and does not need to be repaid. At the bottom of that page, you will see an estimated net cost. This is the cost of attendance minus any grants or scholarships. So this gives you some idea, just a ballpark figure of the amount of either payments you'll need to make or student loans you may need to borrow to cover the rest of your cost. But again, it's only a ballpark estimate. Next slide. Next, you will see a summary of the student loans that you've been offered. Student loans will need to be repaid with interest once you graduate. If you decide to borrow student loans, you're under no obligation to accept the full amount of the loan. So if you need less, you can borrow less. And if there is a parent plus loan listed, this is an educational loan your parents can borrow to help you pay for your educational expenses. And so we'll talk about those in just a minute. Next slide. So if you've been awarded outside scholarships, you can add them here by clicking the Add View button. Many outside scholarships require proof of enrollment before the donor will release the funds, and you can obtain free enrollment verifications by selecting My Student Record icon back when we were seeing the icon that was the $ and the My checklist. There's also a My Student Record icon you can click on, and then click on Access National Student Clearinghouse for enrollment verifications and follow the instructions to get a free proof of enrollment. Next slide. So some of you may have been awarded federal work study. And federal work study is a type of financial aid program that provides funding to students to work on campus and earn up to the amount awarded. If you're awarded work study, you may work up to 18 hours per week while in school. You will receive a paycheck every 2 weeks, and wages will depend on the job. It helps you build your resume. Work study earnings also do not affect your future financial aid eligibility. So it's a great way to earn some extra money while you're a student on campus. If you want to accept your federal work study award, you'll need to log into your portal and accept the award, and then log into our Handshakes jobs portal, which you see the link here on the screen, to check the job postings and interview for the positions you're interested in. If you were not a federal work study awardee, there's still opportunities to work as a student assistant on campus. These opportunities are also posted online at the same website on Handshake. The only difference between federal work study job and a student assistant job is the funding source. Federal work study jobs, the government covers 75% of your wages and the hiring department covers 25%. Whereas if you're a student assistant, the hiring department covers 100% of your wages. So that's the only difference between the two, but the jobs are the same. If you're considering student loans, it's important to understand the different types of loans, interest rates, and terms of repayment. So here on the screen, you see California Dream Loan, and this would be for our students who have completed the California Dream application. If you borrow this loan, there's no loan origination fees. There's a fixed interest rate, and this interest rate, they reset the interest rate July 1st of every year. But when you borrow, this is the interest rate for this year. So your loan will have that interest rate for the life of the loan. Next year, they will reset the interest rates. And if you borrow again, it will have a different interest rate on that loan. So each loan will have its own interest rate based on how the government sets the interest. There's no interest or payments until 6 months after you either graduate or drop below half-time enrollment. The federal subsidized loan, this would be for FAFSA filers, and it's very much the same. However, there is a loan origination fee, but the interest rate is the same, and there's no payments or interest until 6 months after you either graduate or drop below half-time enrollment. And then there's also what we call unsubsidized loans, where again, the interest rate is the same as a subsidized loan. The difference here is when the interest begins. And unlike the previous loan, the interest on an unsubsidized loan begins immediately. And you can elect to pay the interest while you're in school or not. And if you don't, then it just gets capitalized back into the balance of the loan. And your payments actually begin 6 months after you graduate or drop below half-time enrollment. And then finally, we have Parent Plus loans. And these are loans that the parent, educational loans that the parent can borrow on behalf of their student. So the parent is actually the borrower, not the student. The parent is the one responsible for this loan, not the student. It does have higher interest rate, and it does require credit approval for a parent loan. With these loans, the interest begins immediately, and payments begin after the loan is fully dispersed. However, parents can elect to defer the payments while their student is enrolled at least half time. Next slide, please. So if you decide to borrow student loans, you'll first need to log into your portal and accept your loans. Once you do that, a requirement will be posted to your checklist with links to how to complete a master promissory note and loan entrance counseling requirements for student loans. There's no loan entrance requirement for parent loans, but there is a master promissory note you have to complete for parent loans. Once these are completed, it takes us about 5 days to process the loans with the government. Next slide. So students who are selected for verification, so basically the government, when you apply for financial aid, they select about 30% of all applicants for a process called verification. And that basically means that we need to verify the information you put on your aid application as accurate. Students are selected for basically 2 reasons by the government. It's either obvious errors on their application or they were randomly selected. So basically, it means that we would need to verify the information on your aid application with forms such as a tax return, W-2 statements, or other forms to verify that what you put on your application is accurate. If there's any discrepancy, we would correct your aid application electronically with the government for you and recalculate your aid eligibility. Verification documents that are needed are listed in your checklist on the web portal. Once you submit all required documents, then we will review your file. Please note that you won't be able to accept any student loans or work study while we are reviewing your file for verification. until that process has been completed. If you're wondering how long it might take to complete the review, it depends on our processing volume. And that's kind of on a week-by-week basis. But we do have on our website, if you log onto our website, our processing timelines are posted on our website under forms and requirements. And so you can review what our current processing timelines are for verification there. If you have any questions about forms, please contact our Students First Center. Next slide. So when you log into your checklist, here's what's going to look like. Checklist items are posted for documents needed by the Student Health Center, by admissions, by the registrar's office, and by financial aid. And whatever is listed on your checklist is needed to complete your file with each of those departments. So you'll notice here a few symbols. The first one is a red X, which basically means the item is not completed. At this point, hopefully you shouldn't have any X's on your checklist. And if you do, you need to submit those documents immediately. The next one is a yellow triangle, which means that the document has been received and is pending review. And then the last one is a green check mark, which basically says the document that you submitted has been reviewed and is completed. All completed items will move down on this list. So if you scroll down, you'll see all the completed items on your checklist. Next slide. So we also have a video available on understanding your checklist. So if you have any questions about the checklist, this is a great resource to take a look at. Next slide. So if you've had circumstances that prevented you from submitting your aid application by the March 2nd priority deadline, you may submit an on-time status appeal, and that's an internal UC Merced form. We will only approve this once during your undergraduate study. So all 4 years, you get one shot at an on-time status appeal. If approved, we will recalculate your aid as if you were an on-time applicant, even if you missed the deadline. Also, when you initially completed the aid application, it asked for your prior year household income. We realize that household income may have changed since then. And if you've experienced a significant reduction in your household income due to unemployment, underemployment, disability, parent separation, or divorce, you may submit a special circumstance form with supporting documentation of your current household income. If approved, we will recalculate all of your financial aid based on your current income situation. Also, if you have significant expenses not included in your cost of attendance budget, such as out-of-pocket medical, dental, optical expenses, transportation expenses if you're commuting a long distance to school, or additional expenses related to like a disability, you can submit a cost of attendance adjustment form. If approved, we'll increase your cost of attendance and award additional aid. Typically, it would be in the form of student loans. Next slide. So we have a virtual financial wellness center that it's a great resource for our students. It provides free individualized coaching on how to budget your college costs, how to establish a bank account, responding to financial crisis, how to manage your credit, and much, much more. You can see a list kind of on the right-hand side there of a lot of the things that our counselors coach students on. So much more information about this program will be provided during the new student orientations. You can also view information about this center online at finwell, finwell.ucmerced.edu. Next slide. Finally, in order to maintain your financial aid eligibility, you will need to meet all satisfactory academic progress requirements. And these include maintaining a minimum 2.0 GPA, passing a minimum of 70 units of the courses you're enrolled in. So for example, if you enroll in 15 units, you need to pass 70% of those units, which would be at least 11 units. There's also a maximum time frame for financial aid, which as an undergraduate student, it would be 180 units minus any transfer units that you have. And the important thing that I want to point out here is that we do have an appeal process if you have circumstances that have hindered your ability to meet any of these requirements. So don't panic. There is an appeal process if you don't meet one of these requirements, but please be aware these are the requirements to continue your aid eligibility. I'd like to now turn it over to Dr. Lisa Perry. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Rod Radney. Hello, everybody. As Ron said, my name is Lisa Perry, and I am the director of our Students First Center. I am filling in for our Student Business Services staff tonight. So I want to preface this by saying this is not my area of expertise. I am cross-trained in this area, but if we can't answer some of your questions tonight, we will get your information and get back to you. So let's do this. Next slide. Okay, so this presentation, or at least my portion of it, I'm going to talk about how to set up parent authorizations for billing, how to kind of navigate the overall My Bill experience, the health insurance requirement and how to waive, how you'll be making payments, our payment plans, and a couple of other items. I saw lots of questions coming in on the chat about how you will know exactly what you need to pay and when. And so I'll be going over that through this presentation. Okay, next slide. I also would like to start that this is a lot of information, and we will be doing another billing webinar in July, probably late July. We are finalizing the date right now. So really think of tonight as kind of an overview to start preparing you. But we definitely don't expect you to have all the answers right now. And again, we'll be doing a second follow-up webinar in July. Also, if you want to follow along, students can log into their Connect account, go to the My Merced area, and then click on My Bill. And that's basically what I'm going to be showing you right now. So once you click on My Bill, this is what the screen will start looking like to a student. And you'll notice there's not icons. There's a menu over on the left, and then there's information right on the screen about the overall summary. On the next slide, it shows you that you can actually set up a parent view as well, because we do know that parents are often helping their students make sure that payments are being made and are helping kind of finance the education. So we want you to be a part of this journey. On the overview tab, and I think there's more to this slide if we click again. Yep, and click one more time too. This is how you're going to set up the parent information or parent authorization. So it's in the overview section of the bill. And basically you're adding a payer is what they're calling it. And you as the student are going to set up this information. And then the parent has then the ability to log in as themselves into the billing portion of the student portal and make payments on the student's behalf. All right, next slide. The other very useful kind of item that's in here, and that I think it's important for families and students to understand the difference of, is statements versus activity details. So again, over on the left-hand side, you see the yellow arrow showing you statements. And if you click on statements, next slide, it will actually pull up a static statement for you. Now, it's important to know that this is static information. So this statement, it is printed on, you'll see up at the top, the statement date. This one was a test one. done for, let's say, August 1st, that means that it took a snapshot of the student's account on August 1st. And so if you made payments, or if aid applied after that time, or another charge came on, it would not be reflected in this statement. So it's really important that students are also checking the current account activity. And so if we go to the next slide, I think that is on there. Yep. See where it says activity details? And so next slide, when you click on activity details, it will bring up current account activity. And there's a lot of information here that's very useful to parents and students. Up at the top, first of all, you see your student ID number. And so that's great in case you ever, need to know where to reference your student ID number. It's always here. There are 4 items at the top. So on the left, if you were a continuing student and owed money from a previous term, there would be money populated there, but we're all new students, and so we don't owe any money for a previous term. The next one over is going to show you your current charges and payments, and so that's anything that we would have billed you for. And then the next one over is your financial aid that's authorized and ready to pay to your account. And then the final amount would be that current charges and payments minus your authorized financial aid and what's left over for you to pay. Right now, none of you are going to have any of this populated on your account because you haven't registered in classes. And so we don't really do anything on your bill until you've actually registered in classes. When you register, that automatically triggers for fees and tuition to be posted to your account. And so then you'll start seeing some more of that activity. Registration for new students happens the week of June 27th, and we have a webinar about that if you missed it as well. It goes over that process in detail, and another one coming up next week. Ricky did put the link in the chat right here on your Zoom screen, so you can access that information there. But once you start registering, then charges will start to post. In early August, that's when financial aid will start authorizing, and then the bill is actually due on August 17th. All right, next slide. Okay, so one of the items that you will see pop onto your bill after you register is a health insurance charge. So all students in the University of California are required to have major medical coverage. If you do not have your own major medical coverage, you will need to use this insurance that we're going to bill you for. If you have your own insurance with your family or an employer, whoever, then you want to waive out of our insurance. Or you might want to compare if the insurance that you currently have is, if our insurance is better, or if you want to switch, because you can always do that too. Either way, you're just required to have major medical coverage. Students who have Medi-Cal does count. It meets that requirement. And so we have instructions on our website about how to switch your county of residence for Medi-Cal purposes, and then you can complete the waiver. The waiver is currently open and it is due August 1st. And we are having a webinar in July. I think that one is July 20th. Where we will be going over the health insurance waiver and all of the immunization requirements as well. All right, next slide. Okay, so now we're getting to the fun part, which is actually making a payment. So again, the little yellow arrow is showing you where you would do that. You can go ahead and go to the next slide so we can see what that looks like once you click on it. And then you're presented with options. So you can pay multiple ways. You can set up payment methods in here, just like many of our current online banking systems allow. You can do electronic check. You can pay with a credit card, and right there it lists American Express, Discover, MasterCard, or Visa. But please note that when you pay with those, a 2.75% convenience fee is charged. So if you pay with an electronic check, there is no fee charged. You can also pay in person with cash or check on campus. And then you can also mail in a check, and the mailing address is right there. If you plan on mailing in a check, make sure that you mail it in, I would say at least 10 business days before the fee payment deadline. And remember, the fee payment deadline for fall is August 17th. All right, next slide. Okay, so this is again kind of what it will look like when you're in there making a payment. We do offer a payment plan. And so what the payment plan does is takes your overall balance and it divides it by 4. So you would be making your first payment on August 17th, your next payment in September, your next payment in October, and then your final semester payment in December. And then it starts over again for the spring semester for January, February, March, and April. And so if you want to be in the payment plan, you'll actually have to enroll. At this point, it might be a little early to enroll. So again, this is information to help you start planning ahead. Okay, and right here, great slide. It's got the fee payment deadlines. If you are on the payment plan, this is when all the fees will be due. If you're not on the payment plan and you just want to pay everything at once, your due date is August 17th. There is a $40 fee for enrolling in the payment plan. And it looks like you have to enroll each semester that you want to be in the plan. We don't assume that from fall semester, you're going to stay in it for spring. So you want to make sure that you do that. Okay, next slide. Ooh, this is definitely not my area of expertise. Chris, do you want to jump in right here?
Yeah, so this this view is actually going to be different. Through your Connect portal. There's going to be a icon called Electronic Student Refund, where you can add a routing and account number in case you are anticipating a refund. It does look like this, where you will receive funds faster than snail mail, a paper check. The funds will go directly deposited into your bank account, the routing and account number that you provided, if anticipating a refund. And through Connect again, it's called Electronic Student Refund.
Thank you, Chris. I wanted to, drop for non-payment. Before we get to drop for non-payment, I wanted to mention a tool that we haven't really gone over in detail yet, which is your direct costs tool. I dropped the link in chat over there. And this is a tool that I think I'm seeing a lot of you looking for in the chat, which is how will I know how much I have to pay? When will I know? This is a tool that our Office of Financial Aid and Scholarships has developed to help you plan ahead to answer those questions. So that tool is not your bill. That tool is not a contract. It's simply a tool to help you plan ahead. And it will require, once you click on it, it will require that the student actually logs in. And then what it'll do is it'll pull in the student's information and it will show you a number at the bottom, basically, that is what you might expect to pay. It's a really close estimate. And then the tool can be manipulated. So this tool can help you figure out if you need to borrow loans and how much. And there's a section down at the bottom where you can kind of play around with it. If anybody is interested in learning more about that, you can contact our Students First Center. Our financial aid advisors and our Students First Center staff can go over it with people if you call in or set up an appointment with us, either way. Okay, so drop for non-payment. So that we do drop students if you have not paid your bill. It's usually by the fee payment deadline is usually when you need to pay it by. There is a little bit of wiggle room before the drop process hits. We will be contacting students directly via email if you are ever in jeopardy of being dropped from your classes. So you want to make sure that this doesn't happen to you. If you have questions, contact us sooner rather than later, so that we can prevent you from being in this situation. All right, next slide. Okay, great timeline slide. So the bills, your bills should start coming out on August 1st. That's that kind of static statement that I told you about. But after you register in courses at the end of June, that's when you will start to see activities starting to take place on your current account. Financial aid disbursement is on the 15th of August, and then the fee payment deadline is shortly after that. You can use, like I said, the direct cost worksheet prior to that to kind of get a forecast of what your bill will look like. And then instruction begins on August 24th. And I'm going to turn it over to my friend and colleague, Chris.
Thank you, Lisa. All right, so as mentioned earlier, Students First Center will be your one-stop shop for admissions, financial aid, registrar services, and billing related questions. If you don't know where to start, we are a good place to begin. If we can't answer your question, we will help find you the appropriate resource. Go ahead and follow our Rufus Bobcat social media. They tweet out and provide dates and deadlines and help get you connected to campus info. So I'm going to go ahead and put that in the chat. That way you could follow our lovable mascot, Rufus Bobcat, for advice and info. Next slide, please. And so I did put our contact info in the chat a bit earlier. There's multiple different ways to get connected to an SFC staff member. Go ahead and pull out your phone. You could save our number. Call us Monday through Thursday, 8:30 to 4:30, and Fridays, 8:30 to 3. Our number is 209-228-7178. You can schedule a live Zoom appointment with us Monday through Thursdays, 4 to 5 p.m. You could utilize our virtual drop-in window through Zoom and meet with one of our amazing student staff members Monday through Thursday, 1 through 9 p.m. If you need late night assistance, you could email us studentsfirst@ucmerced.edu. On our Students First Center website, you could even chat with us Monday through Thursday, 8:30 to 4:30, Fridays, 8:30 to 3. We're closed at noon, but you can kind of see it toward the bottom, a little chat with us icon. And we have in-person services. We're open Monday through Thursday, 8:30 to 4:30, Fridays, 8:30 to 3. And even Monday through Fridays, 8 to 5, we do have a student staff member within our lobby to help with questions as well. Next slide, please. And again, congrats and welcome to the Bobcat family. We hope to see you at our in-person orientation. Go ahead and sign up if you haven't so far. And I think we still have some time for questions and answers if you have questions to put in the chat.
We definitely do have time, Chris. Thank you so much to Chris, as well as everyone else who has presented tonight. Fantastic information for our audience. So I hope that everyone has been listening closely, taking screenshots as you went. And now if you have any questions and you haven't yet put those in the Q&A, go ahead and click on that Q&A button, send those in to us, and this is your chance. We are going to start diving right in. Now, the first one is a quick one because this has been asked multiple times. Where do you look for recordings of all of these fabulous events, including this one tonight, which is also being recorded? If one of my colleagues behind the scenes, if you all can drop that link to the summer session or summer series of webinars, we have had several already. This one, of course, you're joining us tonight. This one is also being recorded and will be posted within a couple days, hopefully by early next week. So you can go ahead and take a look at that website. Also on that site, you'll see the upcoming events that have been mentioned throughout the evening. And I'm sure we'll be adding even more. So make sure that you do bookmark this page. Make sure that you are taking a look at events that you may have missed, as well as upcoming events, and get yourself registered. All right, so we'll go ahead in just a minute and get that down into the chat for you. Meanwhile, let's move on to our official questions. The first one, this one has to do with work study, and we have a listener asking, how do they apply for work study?
Thanks, Ricky. So you don't apply for work study. Basically, work study is awarded to students who complete the FAFSA, and we consider all students who meet the eligibility requirements. We award work study to. So if you weren't awarded work study, then you may not have met the eligibility requirements for it. But there's still opportunities for you to work on campus in a student assistant position. So I would encourage you to take a look at those.
Fantastic. Thanks so much, Ron. Our next question here. People are asking, so do I have to pay right away when I enter campus? So maybe more specifically, when do they pay? What is that deadline? Is it as soon as they register or something a bit later?
Yes, so remember the fee payment deadline is August 17th. So even though you will register in classes in late June, you will not actually need to make any payments until August 17th. And if you sign up for the payment plan, your first payment will be due August 17th.
Wonderful. And thank you so much for moving those slides around for us. We have an awesome team behind the scenes. All right, the next question. So a couple people have actually asked this. They're mentioning June 1st and July 1st, and they're wondering which one of those dates are significant for an official deadline, or maybe both.
So I think this first came up, Ron, when we were talking about the financial aid priority document deadline. So do you want to talk about that one? And then I'll take the July 1st, because I think that one's related to transcripts.
Okay. So on your award letters, it should have indicated that the documents were due by June 1st, and that's our priority document deadline. Now, obviously, our student intent to register deadline has been extended, but our document deadline, priority document deadline, was still June 1st. So if you are still missing documents, please get those in right away.
And then I'll just add to that to check your checklist, because you may have turned in documents before June 1st, and then we might have asked for something else. And if we did that, that document would have gotten a new document deadline. So all of your specific, yes, exactly, thank you. All of your specific deadlines are going to be listed in your checklist. So I did see a July 1st notation as well, and I'm pulling it up. First of all, let me show you this handy dandy website that we have that is our admitted students next step website. If you haven't been there, I highly recommend bookmarking it and saving it. It is your kind of walkthrough guide to everything you need to do this summer. And so July 1st is the official transcript deadline for the Office of Admissions. And again, that will also be displayed in this checklist with your specific deadline in it.
Thanks, Lisa, for adding that information. Yes, the document deadlines listed on your checklist are the ones that you need to pay attention to, because we do change those deadlines depending on when you submitted your aid application. And if we have added documents to your checklist, then that date changes.
Is it too late to change my major?
Yes, it is technically too late to change your major for this fall semester. But that doesn't mean that you will be put in classes that aren't counting towards whatever major you want to pursue. So right before June 27th, the week before, you're going to get an email with course recommendation information. And those courses are going to be based on completing general education requirements and potentially counting towards the major that you have listed. If you feel that the courses are not also counting towards another major that you're interested in, at that time, I would recommend contacting your academic advisor in the Bobcat advising office to kind of have a conversation about other recommendations because you're considering changing your major. We do have another webinar coming up on, I think, the 23rd. And that is going to go over course registration information. And so that would be another opportunity to learn more about course registration and the types of courses that'll be recommended to you.
Fantastic. And I did go ahead and drop that link back into the chat. We have put it in there just a couple times for you guys tonight, but you can definitely take a look there. That's also a popular question tonight. The recordings will also be listed there for this event as well as previous and all of those upcoming. So make sure that you do bookmark that page. It is an important one to keep at your fingertips. This one has to do with placement exams. Someone's asking if it is too late to take those if they've already missed the date.
Okay, so there are potentially 4 placement exams that you might need to take as an incoming first-year student. That would be the writing readiness exam, the chemistry placement exam, the math placement exam, or the CSE placement exam. And I can drop some helpful information into the chat in a minute. For the writing placement exam, if you haven't taken it yet, that one, we definitely know that you can still take it. All you need to do is search your email inbox for the writing readiness exam email that you received from us, and then use that original link. For the math and chemistry placement exam, they are going to do everything they can to accommodate late requests. And so you'll need to email the natural sciences advising team, and we'll get that up in chat for you too. For the CSE exam, that one might be closed. They might not be able to accommodate it, but we also have contact information for them as well that we can put in chat to follow up with them.
Wonderful. So would you recommend that a student keep their Medi-Cal, or should they enroll in the university insurance?
We do have a health webinar coming up late July. I think it's July 20th. And so that might be a good place to get an answer to your question, or you could contact our health center and talk to them directly. I really think that's going to be an individual kind of case by case decision. I don't want to misadvise you because I am not an expert in that area.
So when should my parents apply for loans due to the lengthy process and the school deadline in case that's not met?
So, based on the timeline that it takes to process the loans, and you saw the fee payment deadline, you should probably accept the loans and go through all the processes at least a couple of weeks before the fee payment deadline to ensure that it's all processed by the deadline. So I would say by probably mid-July, you should be working on accepting your loans.
So here's a housing question, if we may know the answer to this one. When do students start their move-in process?
Their website says it's going to be August 18th, and I think it's going to span over 4 days. So you will get an individual email that gives you your specific move-in day and time, but plan that it will take place during that kind of overall time period.
Where can I find the English readiness exam?
There is a link in your email. So you gotta search your email for the writing readiness exam. And I'm pulling up their website because there's a specific link. It's not a public link. There's a specific link that you were sent in your email. If you can't find that email, you'll need to contact our writing center, and I'm gonna drop all that information in the chat right now.
All right, thanks so much, Lisa. And just a quick reminder to everyone again, as we are getting closer to the end of our program, we have been dropping a ton of links into that chat feature. So go ahead and just take a quick second, start clicking on those links quickly. They will or should open up in a different browser for you. That way you can go ahead and bookmark those or just review those after we are off the air here with you here in just a moment. Like I said, there's been a lot that have been dropped there. So definitely want to take advantage or just take some screenshots, pictures with your phone, something like that, so that you can access those later on. All right, another financial aid question coming in. If parents pay the fees ahead of time, but then federal loans get approved later on, will there be a refund, or what happens to that extra money? Does it get carried over?
So if you were to apply for more loan money than you need, because you've either paid part of balance or you just felt that you needed more additional loans in case of living expenses or whatever. Once your balance is paid at the university, then any credit on your account would be refunded to the student. So if you applied for more loans than are needed, then those would create refunds.
Perfect. Thanks so much, Ron. Someone is asking, when will their son's financial aid award show up, and will that middle class scholarship be there at this time?
I'm only laughing because the middle class scholarship has been totally revamped by the state of California, and they're still rolling out the requirements to us for processing it. So at this point, we haven't been able to get it onto the awards at this point, but as soon as we are able to, we will. Hopefully it'll be later this summer, but we're still waiting on the state to finalize some of the processing and eligibility for the middle class scholarship this year. Like I said, it's been totally revamped from what it was last year.
Perfect. All right.
Sorry. Yeah, sorry I can't be more definitive than that.
That's perfect. Thanks, Ron. One more for financial aid. How and when should a student reject their student loan? So this particular person does not want to take out any student loans, so they're wondering how they can note that and if there's a deadline.
So no, there's no deadline. The loan would just stay on your financial aid award as offered because you've not accepted it, so it would never be processed. Even if you accepted it, if you didn't complete the master promissory note and loan insurance counseling, it still wouldn't be processed. But you can go into your financial aid award and decline it. So if you go in and you just decline the student loans, you can do that. Later on, if you change your mind about the loans, we can always reinstate them. But there is the functionality for you to go in and decline those loans on your award.
Wonderful. All right, everyone, we are just about ready to wrap up our event tonight. So I would just like to thank everyone once again for presenting, and also give Lisa and Ron an opportunity for any last words that you'd like to mention tonight.
I would just say, make sure you check your checklist and get any documents that are needed in as soon as possible. With student loans, we talked about the drop for non-payment process. You do have, if you have a balance on your account, once your housing charges are posted, you do have a couple of decisions you need to make. You either need to pay the balance on your account at that point, or you can set up payment arrangements with the university, or you can borrow the student loans to cover it. Those are pretty much your options. So make sure that you don't put those decisions off to the very last minute, because like I said, it takes some time to process the loans, and we don't want you to accept the loans at the very last minute and then you get dropped for non-payment because we didn't have time to process the loans. So make sure that you make those decisions early, and if you are borrowing loans, to complete that process as soon as possible.
Thank you, Ron. And Lisa, any last words tonight?
Yeah, I dropped 2 tips in the chat. Tip 1 is review our admitted student next steps website. That is a perfect guide to get you through these next few months and get you started off on the right foot at UC Merced this fall. And then tip 2 is ask for help sooner rather than later. Our Students First Center is the perfect place to start if you have a question and don't know who to ask. If we can't answer it, we're going to get you to the right person to get the help you need.
Fantastic. Thank you both so much. Great insight tonight. All of our presenters, always amazing. Everyone behind the scenes with your fast fingers responding to all of these incoming questions. And of course, a big thank you to everyone in attendance. We had quite the crowd tonight, so thank you so much for being here. Quick reminder, I know this came up many times and it is also in the chat. If you want to click on it one last time, we do have additional summer series events coming up and some that have already passed. These are part of the I Am a Bobcat summer webinar series. So go ahead and click on that link, get yourself signed up for any of those that are upcoming. You can also take a look at the instant replays with the links that are there. It'll bump you over to our YouTube channel. So another great place for you to keep up with us here. A couple of those coming up, as you did here a little while ago. How to register for classes is coming up next week. There's one about UC health insurance and vaccine information, as well as more billing support and financial wellness. I'm sure there may also be others that are coming up, as well as those instant replays. Once again, remember to check those emails, keep a lookout for those important dates and deadlines that are coming up, and make sure that you are checking your checklist. Tonight has been so much fun with you. We have been talking about financing your education. Thank you so much for joining us. Have a wonderful night, everyone.